you all for tuning back in Practical Spirits podcast. We are back with our good friend of the show, Miss LaTasha Anderson, a great therapist, a great friend. She spoke with us back in March, and this is really part two of our discussion. So, my co-host here, Rob, we opened up. We're gonna have separate videos, just covering several of the topics because during this time, it's not that mental health is a buzzword. It does seem to be that for some, but we know it's something that's very serious. And I find myself asking when I'm speaking with friends or family members, I'll ask, well, how's your mental health? And for some that just seems strange. But one of the things I like to get our expert to kind of go in and she's a professional in the field, and also I know her to be a Christian as well. You know them by their fruits. I have no doubt about it that this person is a Christian, so she has the spiritual aspect of it as well. So we're going to deal with the practical, the spiritual, and the scientific as well. And before I do want to spend some time talking about depression. But before even getting to depression, something that we touched on our blog talk show, we talked about anxiety, and you kind of started breaking down some of the differences as far as with anxiety and paranoia. You really unpacked that for us. So that episode is up on blogtalkradio.com if someone wants to go back and listen to that previous episode. But LaTasha, first of all, just how are you? I understand that you are someone that people come to not just because that's your livelihood, but just like you and I having a technical background, you know that everyone in your family or everyone that knows someone in your family, if they have a technical issue, they're going to come to you whether you're on or off the clock or not. So I would assume that, because I know I ask you things because I know your background. So I would assume that you probably have people that ask you things or look to you to make sense of things. But my first question is, like, how is your mental health during this process, during the whole quarantine, and what the despair that others around you are dealing with, just dealing with sickness. A lot of people are losing relatives. A lot of people are losing jobs. There's an election, there's racial tension. There's a lot of things that's going on. So just you personally, how is your mental health and how do you cope with things on a day-to-day?
First, let me say thank you for asking, because you are absolutely right. I am that, person, and I don't complain about it, because that's just that's what who God called me to be.
Right.
So I am the person that everyone, tends to come to and tends to lean on personally. And then of course, this is just my professional work. So the struggle has been real. I'm not gonna lie. This whole pandemic, the civil unrest we've had, the like you said, the election, all of those have been a perfect storm for everybody. And so as a therapist, it has been really challenging, because as a therapist, there are lots of clients that you see who are dealing with something that you can have empathy for, you can have compassion for, but you're not necessarily walking through it. Or if it's something that you may have walked through before, but you've overcome, or you've walked through it, and you're better. So you're on the other side of it, so to say. This pandemic has presented a very unique and challenging time for therapists in particular, because now we are in the same seat as our clients. And so the exact same things that they're facing, that they're now anxious about, that they're now depressed about, we are facing the same things. And so that has been probably the most challenging aspect of this entire year, for us as therapists. And just talk about me, for me, that has been the most challenging, because I'm experiencing the same things as my client. And so, I promote self-care. And so I have to practice what I preach. I started going back to therapy myself, because I needed a space to unload. I needed a space to deal with my own stuff that I've been dealing with. Because like I like to say all the time to my clients, and even to friends and families, our personal worlds didn't stop because of COVID, because of the election, because of, the racial tensions. We still have stuff going in our personal lives, plus this stuff that is going on globally. And so I need a space to deal with my personal stuff along with this global, how I'm interpreting and feeling from the global things. And so I started going to therapy. Again, self-care. I really, 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 the outlets, the things that I use to feel myself and fuel myself, like reading for pleasure, just reading a fiction book that don't have nothing to do with mental health, nothing to do with anything heavy, just fluffy romance or suspense or whatever. I do that. I've been doing a lot of just really reading, taking walks in nature, going outside, getting fresh air, getting vitamin D. I've been stressing that for people because we've been isolated. We've been in the house. Vitamin D is one of the number one ways. The sun is the number one way we get our vitamin D. Lack of vitamin D has been linked to depression. And so, we having an uptick in depressive symptoms because we're just not getting outside anymore. So making sure I get outside, riding my son's bike and almost killed myself, but hey, I ain't doing things like that. My other, like I like to say, I've had to put the full court press of self-care. So prayer, of course, but just spending really good intentional time with God, really being in the word, journaling, things like that. So it's like whatever I've been doing, whatever I was doing before, I've had to do it times 3 now because it's just a really, really trying time for everybody, and me included.